Come on inside, there's a very rare car in here. There's one vehicle that I sold that I really wish I never had. 1961 Volkswagen crew cab pickup truck. So I stopped my car, I looked over the fence, and there was my old truck. I'm Tom Cotter. The first car I found, I was 12 years old. I'm 61 years old now and I'm still finding cars. I can't believe you're gonna fix this car. And in this series, you'll see that there are still plenty of cars left. I live half a mile from here. You never imagine that there's treasures that are so close to your house that you could actually walk there. I'm willing to bet that if you're watching this program, if you took an interesting walk around your neighborhood, you could find something, maybe not as interesting as this barn and the car inside, but I bet you'd find something pretty cool. I was part of a magazine story for Road and Track. Peter Egan, an editor for Road and Track, and I drove a AC Cobra across the United States from California to North Carolina. Well, that story came out in 2002, and soon after, I got a call from a guy named Hugh Barger, who owns Barger Farms, where we are right now. And he said, I love the story, I love Cobras. Why don't you come over to my house? I'd like to show you something I have in the barn. Whoa, I've been passing this barn for 15 years, always wondering if there was something inside there, and it turns out there is. So come on, take a walk with me, and let's see what he showed me that day 20 years ago. This is a 1963 AC Greyhound. AC was a car company, is a car company, based in England, and you've probably heard of an AC Cobra, or an AC Bristol, or an AC Ace. Those are the more popular ACs. Well, this is an AC Greyhound. It was a car that was made for just a short period, and this car's been in this barn, well, since 1968, and Hugh's father gave him this car when he went to graduate school. And he drove this car for a number of years. But because there's so few of these made, when he had a brake problem and needed a new master cylinder, he couldn't get one because they never made enough cars to make spare parts. So he couldn't get the brake master cylinder. Well, I'll put it in the barn until I can find one. Well, it hasn't left this barn since 1968, so we're coming up on 50 years here in a couple of years. Restoration of a car like this presents a dilemma for the person who owns it, because the Hagerty price guide says that a number 4 condition of this car is worth $61,000. I think this is worse than a 4. If there was such a thing as a 5, it would be this. In a restored condition, the Hagerty price guide says that about $132,000 is the value. The issue becomes paying labor rates at $100 an hour to a restoration shop, exclusive of chrome plating, buying all the rubber you need, leather, all the materials. You could easily exceed the value of this car if you were going for a concours condition. You could exceed that in labor rates and materials. So the thing is to pull this out of here and put it up on a lift and see exactly what you have. If those chassis rails are rusted, if they're perforated with rust or they're weak, then this car is not worth restoring. This is a 1916 Oldsmobile. It's got a V8 engine, 1916. Very eclectic group of cars. There's a 67 Volkswagen Beetle. There are some people that claim that the 67 is the best Volkswagen Beetle. A big old 427 side oiler. Jeez. This is a Ford Anglia, made in England. It's a really tiny Ford, and a lot of drag racers in the States wanted to have these to build into drag cars. So obviously this one was done. I don't know when it was built, what kind of engine it has. We're in Mooresville, North Carolina. This is the heart of NASCAR country. And right here we're looking at a little piece of NASCAR history. This Ford truck is a 1975 Ford solid body hauler. This was originally owned by the Elliott family. Bill Elliott, 1988 Winston Cup champion. When he started his career, it was called Melling Racing. A guy out of Jackson, Michigan, decided he liked the family, was going to give them what they needed most, was money. And they wound up buying equipment, this truck being one of them. This truck was used as the Elliott hauler. It hauled one single race car to tracks all over the United States for a couple of years. You can take a look. Here's a copy of the title, Melling Racing, Dawsonville, Georgia. And you see the VIN number here, ends with 25263. Take a look inside here. There's a VIN number, 25263, Melling Racing, Dawsonville, Georgia. 1975 Ford chassis cab. You can see inside here, I guess when they started to build up an inventory of vehicles, this was vehicle number 5 of Melling Racing. This was put on here in July 1992. Gives the address in Dawsonville, Georgia. This is a piece of history, and if you were a NASCAR fan or a Bill Elliott fan or a Ford racing fan, this would be quite something to own. It is for sale. It's $10,000. It runs. This man's owned it since the 90s, and he'd like to sell it. It's just sitting here. He wants to do something more productive with it. So a nice old Beetle, 65. Now this is pretty cool. Ford Econoline van, 62. This is an English Ford, right? If you look at this car, it looks like a miniature 34 Ford. If you look at everything is small on it. The grille, the body, the wheels. This is an old Bobby Allison Winston Cup stock car. So this Camaro was used in the movie for Days of Thunder. More stock cars. 31 Victoria. So these cars go back to when I was employed in the NASCAR world. I remember, Harry Gant running the Skoal Bandit car. So this 73 Charger has a 400 cubic inch engine in it. In good condition, would go for about $15,000. In Concours, about twice that. This car has been in a movie. This car was featured in Days of Thunder in a street racing scene against a flame Camaro. So it probably has a little bit of value if you're a Days of Thunder fan. So I'm here with Buddy Cram, and we're in Mooresville, North Carolina. And Buddy has a very interesting business story, as he calls it, a passion, of building General Lee replicas and selling them to customers around the country and around the world. The last guy to hold out for racing Mopars, Chryslers, was Buddy Arrington, and this is the car he had to race, an Imperial. It was the largest car on the circuit. It weighed a lot. It had a lot of torque, but it had a big, heavy old engine. I felt so bad, but he was the last guy to hold out and race stock cars for Chrysler. Richard Petty had already gone to Pontiacs by then. It's interesting to find out that the Arrington family owns this one, and they're going to restore it in honor of the father. I've owned a lot of cars in my lifetime. American cars, foreign cars, race cars. I love them all. There's one vehicle that I sold that I really wish I never had. 1961 Volkswagen crew cab pickup truck. Well, I was driving down this road in my truck, so I was up a little bit higher than the average vehicle. And I could look over this fence. Now, there was no leaves on the trees because it was still wintertime. And I was able to see what was a familiar old red shape. I said, that looks familiar. So I stopped my car, I looked over the fence, and there was my old truck. So we're going to go back right now and take a look at the truck that I used to own. Unfortunately, it's become a barn find again. So this is a 1961 Volkswagen crew cab pickup truck. These pickup bed sides go up and down. I'm not going to push them up because I'm afraid they're going to crack.
Yeah,
but
that one's really bad.
They flip up so you can make it from a flatbed into a pickup truck. They're not very fast though. They're 40 horsepower. Going up a hill, you probably might have to downshift from fourth to third. Whenever you find an old car, it's important to search through it so carefully. Glove box, under the seats, in the trunk, for things that might be important as part of the restoration and expensive to replace. Now this just happened to be lying here. This is the church key, and you stick this in a cap on the side and screw it, and you open the gas cap door, and that's how you add fuel to it. So that would probably be very, very difficult to find at a flea market. Is this for sale?
For the right price.
If I wanted to buy this and have a father and son project, what would you ask for it?
I'd have to think about it.
Okay. Do me a favor, think about it and let me know. Yeah, I know that Chad bought this with the intention of restoring it, but you know, so many restoration projects, life gets in the way. You know, you have a job, you start a business, you have a family, and projects like this take the back seat to real life. I had heard about a Shelby in Lincolnton, North Carolina for a number of years, and I actually knew the guy who owned it, Bob Ramseur. But I had also heard he's not interested in selling it. Well, Bob owned a little diner in Lincolnton, and I would go there and have breakfast once in a while. I became friends with Bob. And so he took me to a rental house that he owned, and parked in the driveway in the backyard was a 1967 Shelby GT500 that he had bought when it was a year old. Bob bought it for his wife. His wife drove this car for the entire 34,000 miles on the odometer. So it's only have 34,000 miles. When she got in the real estate business, she needed to have a minivan. So they put this in the backyard, and it sat there for years and years and years. The last time this was registered on the road was 1980. We'll pop the hood on this. So this is the original 428 Cobra Jet engine. You can see the proper and original air cleaner, 2 4-barrels mounted on an aluminum intake manifold, Cobra manifold, and the valve covers here were Cobra Le Mans, or Le Mans, but it's pronounced Le Mans. And so this is all original. Now this car is so amazingly original, it still has some of the original tower clamps holding the heater hoses in place. I had to replace the original heater hoses, which were still on the car, and I can see that one's getting ready to burst, so I need to replace that one. You can see that here's a little tag hanging off the coil. There's tags hanging off the carburetors and the distributor. There's the original ID plate. I'm very reluctant to do any changes on this. Here's the original spare tire on the 10-spoke mag. That tire came on this car, a Goodyear Speedway E7015 tire. I took this 8-track tape deck out of here. Who knows how many Led Zeppelin songs were playing out of this thing, or the Beach Boys or something. If you look at the odometer, it's got 34,611 miles. And the nice thing about it is here we're in a 50-year-old car, and you know the interior lights still light up. I mean, everything works on this car. If you find a car that you like, come up with a value on it and offer a fair market value to the owner. I've found that lowballing somebody gets the hair on the back of the neck up, and they don't. They might turn you off totally, and you're out of the picture. But as I was able to do with this car, by offering a fair market value, I was able to do in 20 minutes what people have been trying 20 years to do, was buy that car, but they were all trying to get it for free, cheap. And I got it for what it was worth, and I feel pretty good about that. This whole episode has been filmed within 10 miles of where I live in North Carolina. This car was purchased 15 miles from where I live. We looked at lots of cars that are as close to my house as there probably are cars close to your house. You don't have to travel to New Mexico to find a car. You could probably just travel across town and find them. So next time you're on your way to get pizza or a quart of milk, see how many cars you can find on the way home. Happy hunting.